Mr. Bailey, staff, I believe you're called educators now, I think it's no longer staff, educators, members of the governing body, parents, and I think most importantly, the learners here this evening. Good evening, and thank you very, very much for affording me this wonderful opportunity of spending a few minutes with you. When Mr. Bailey briefed me about coming to do the speech at the prize giving, he said to me there's two things that he wants me to focus on if I don't mind. The first one is maybe a few anecdotal stories of things that happened while I was at school, and the second was to share some lessons that hopefully the learners will be able to take forward with them into their future life. And that, for me, posed two major problems. The first problem was 99% of things that happened when I was at school are not things that one is able to share on a public platform. So the second problem related to that is one can't remember them. At our age, those things are long, long gone. Just for interest's sake, it was 34 years ago that I last stood up here. So it's been a long, long time, and yeah, to try and remember now some of the anecdotal stories of the things that happened. And then the second problem was the being able to share with the learners something that hopefully they will be able to take with them. And I think before we get on to the more serious stuff, I just want to share with you one story that's probably the only story that I really can actually share with you. Back in my day, I was based at the Midmar House boarding hostel, and as the senior boys, sort of now it would be grade 10, grade 11 and grade 12 boys, we were allowed to send the grade 8 kids to the little store. It was based where the medical centre is currently. So if we wanted sweets in the afternoon, we would all gather, the senior boys would gather our money together, we would find one of the grade 8 pups as they were known, we would give them the money and we would tell them what we wanted, and they would go off illegally. If they got caught, they would be in serious, serious trouble, but of course we knew nothing about it. We would send them off and they would go and buy us sweets. But one particular day, the sweets that were sort of doing the round, and the really, really popular sweets, they were known as Brook Licks. They were round suckers, sort of toffee-type suckers. So a whole lot of us boys gathered our money together, and it came to some amount, gave it to one of the pups and said to him, off you go, this is what we want you to buy. Of course, the inevitable happened, and he came back with a wad of Brook Licks. Piles and piles of Brook Licks. So idiotically, we broke them into small pieces. We put them into a pile. We went through into the grade 8 dorm, and we said to the kids there, chocolate, if any of you want, eat. So as happens with hostel kids, they dived in, some of them more than others. Long story short, the next morning, half the kids spent their time walking down to breakfast with a bundle of sheets because they now needed sheets replaced. A couple of the kids actually ended up having to go down to the doctor because they'd become dehydrated overnight. They'd spent so much time on the loo. And yeah, there are many, many more stories, but I shan't bore you with them or offend you with them. To the grade 12s who are about to embark on a journey of your life, what does one say to a grade 12? I mean, those of you who are parents, and all of you, I assume, have children, grade 12s know it all. You cannot teach them anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and talk you through a story of my life. It was an hour you said I've got, Mr. Bailey, an hour. Yeah. I'm going to try and do it relatively quickly, and hopefully from that you can learn a lesson or two. And they lessons that I learned through a rather tragic or a rather catastrophic event that happened in my life at very close to age 40. That's what changed my life. I wished in hindsight that I'd learned that lesson a great deal earlier, and I hope that maybe I can get you to learn that lesson a little bit earlier. And basically the story goes as follows. You, I would imagine, are sitting in your place now going, we're about to write exams, we're terrified about what marks we're going to get, and more importantly, the big worry is, what do we do next year? Your dad's told you need to go and study law, or you need to go and become an engineer or a doctor, or you need to get a degree in economics because you must go and work for a big corporate. That's where you make money. So one is not quite sure what to do or where should you go. So the chances are you're probably looking at a university, if we have any left by the time I go next year. Looking at a technicon, but I think the whole issue of what do you do next year becomes a major decision. It's something that, and again, I go back to when I was in grade 12, and I'm talking, I mean, there were no cell phones back in those days. This is how long ago it was. No cell phones, no laptops. Apples were things we ate. If you said to someone you want to poke them, you would be arrested by the police. Life was very different back then. But I think we had exactly the same challenges that you had. And I see I had a note here, Viagra wasn't around either. So life was very different for us back then. The reality is, as learners, as grade 12 learners, as matrics as we were known, we had exactly the same challenges and the same issues that you had. What do I do with my life? And unfortunately, I think a lot of us base our future decisions at that stage on a couple of things. On where am I going to make the most money? Where do I think my career is going to be the most successful, i.e. corporate? We automatically default to a big corporate environment. We think that's where we need to go. And we base our life around that. And basically what I did with my life was I went to varsity to study accountancy. So I thought, in all honesty, grade 12, I was going to be the first head prefect to fail matric. We had an A, B and a C class, A being the bright students, C being the not so bright, and C being the fairly dim students. The only reason I wasn't in the D class is because there wasn't one. I was in the C class simply because there wasn't a class lower than that. So academics was not what I was at school for. For me, academia was extramural. It was about girls and sport. And I think, again, something that a lot of people can identify with. Again, it did not mean that that was the end of my life. It did not mean that I couldn't do anything with my life. It did not mean that I couldn't go further with my life. So again, the point I'm trying to make, some kids are very academic and do well academically. That's fantastic. If you don't, it does not mean it's the end of the world. So I wasn't an academic child. I somehow managed to get into university, and I decided that I wanted to study accountancy because accountants are rich. Accountants make money, they drive big cars, and that's what life's about. Life's about making money and getting rich. That's what makes you happy as a grade 12. I will explain to you later on that life, unfortunately, and of course, all the hot chicks like you. If you've got a big car and you've got a big job and you're studying to be a CA, you've made it, you've arrived. So I arrived at varsity, first year accounts, and numbers are probably the thing that I am worst at. Just to give you an idea, a course called statistics that you start in first year, I did it in first year, I repeated it in second year, I kid you not, I repeated it in third year, and I then passed it in my fourth year. So very clearly I was going down a road that was A, not something that appealed to me, and in all honesty not something that I was good at. Interestingly, I then needed half a credit to finish my degree in fourth year, and someone said, you know, why don't you do labour law? Labour law is a really cool subject. Long story short, I ended up finishing with a master's degree in labour law. That became the career that I pursued purely by accident. So the point I'm trying to make at this stage, hopefully the lesson you're hearing is, don't try and plan your life too rigidly at this stage of your life. You're young. You've got many years ahead of you. The chances are the thing that you start now when you leave school is not the thing you're going to be doing in 20 years' time or when you get to my age in life. Anyway, I then went into the advertising industry, into the legal industry, spent a lot of time in law, and basically my job was firing people or retrenching people. So I would, dressed as I am, I would go to work like this every day and literally walk into my fancy office and spend my day either firing or retrenching people. That's what law is about, or certainly labour law. People think it's got this romantic notion, corporate. It was about board meetings, it was about sitting, dealing with all sorts of corporate governance issues. Yes, one earned a nice salary, but was it a magic job? Was it a job that fulfilled me? Was it a job that really made me happy? It wasn't. This was how I went to work. Then a thing happened, and this was the sort of seismic event in my life that happened that changed my life, that I wished had happened in my 20s. I got cancer 12 years ago, and that was a major blow for me. It was I don't know if I've got a day left, I don't know if I've got 2 days left, but you know what, maybe I actually need to sit back and have a look at my life and decide what I want to do with my life. So what I did was a very simple thing. I decided, you know what, I don't want to go to work like this. all of this wearing I am holding it in, by the way. This became my work outfit. This is now how I go to work. This is, honestly, this is how I go to board meetings. This is how I go to meet. Run Walk for Life is now, or will be in early January next year, a 23 million rand per annum company. It's got 32,000 members. Does it mean that you are not successful because you follow something that you enjoy? Does it mean that you're not going to make money because you're not a lawyer or an accountant or working for a big company? And the moral of the story and what the point I'm trying to get across to you is absolutely not. But, and I can see all the parents sitting there going, oh my word, he's telling our kids to take a 5-year sabbatical. And I suppose to a degree I am. I am saying to you, don't get stressed about what happens next year or the year after or the year after. I always say to students who are looking at leaving school, finishing off from school, look at the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years of your life as a continuation of your education. You haven't stopped your education now. You've stopped phase 1 of your education. The next phase of your education is about picking up experience, travel, identify the things that you enjoy and go and do those things. Start building a foundation for what hopefully later on in your life, when I was 40 and I decided that Run Walk for Life was where I wanted to go, I'd already built a foundation. I had a degree. It didn't matter what degree I had. The fact of the matter is I'd gone through the process of getting a degree, learning how to think, learning how to process. I had worked in corporate. I understood a little bit about how corporate worked. But it was all, at the end of the day, part of molding one and getting one to a point where my passion finally, when I identified what my passion was, I could follow my passion. Be very, very careful at age 17 or 18 saying, I'm going to follow my passion. And the reason I say that is as follows. At 18, do you really know what your passion is? Probably girls or boys, probably long vacations. Your passion at 18 is in all likelihood not going to be your passion at age 25, 35, 40. So don't set yourself on a particular career now unless you know that you definitely want to go into law or medicine or engineering. Use the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years of your life as education. So again, my advice, and what I'm trying to get across with my story is spend the next few years of your life building a foundation. Gain experience, work where you can, meet as many people as you can, travel, pay attention obviously to your passions because hopefully that's where you will end up in life. And again, and I say it very, very definitively, you do not have to be a professional who works for a big corporation to be successful. Success is not about the size of your car, it's not about, I know it's hard to believe this, but it's not about the size of your bank balance and about the fact that you've got a Gucci watch and a fancy car. It's not about that. It's about the feeling that you get when you come home from a day's work or you wake up in the morning and you go, you know what, I'm actually excited to be going to work. So don't put pressure on yourself now. Use the next couple of years as years that you can learn. And I want to, in closing, I want to read you a letter that I apologize if some of you have seen it or heard it, but it's a letter written in inverted commas by a principal to parents, and it goes as follows. Dear parents, the exams of your children are about to start. I know that you are all really anxious for your child to do well, but please do remember, amongst the students who will be sitting for the exams, there is an artist who doesn't need to understand maths. There is an entrepreneur who doesn't care about history or English literature. There is a musician whose chemistry marks won't matter. There is a sportsman whose physical fitness is more important than physics. If your child does get top marks, that's great. But if he or she doesn't, please don't take their self-conscious and dignity away from them. Tell them it's okay. It's just an exam. For the record, I failed many of them. You know what? It's no big deal. We do it again. So, if they don't do well, tell them it's okay. It's just an exam. They cut out for much bigger things in life. Tell them that no matter what they score, you love them and will not judge them. Please do this, and when you do, watch your children conquer the world. One exam or low mark won't take away their dreams and talent. And please, don't think that doctors and engineers are the only happy people in the world. Warm regards, the principal.
Thank you very much for your